Hi. Welcome to Tennessee Valley this morning on this early Monday morning. And we can tell it's Monday because we've already had a few little glitches with our microphones and things going on. And thus my first guest decided he would just stay in his seat. So if you don't know who this is, we'll tell you in a few minutes. But we're going to first welcome you to Tennessee Valley this morning. My name is Alan Mincy with my co-host Lou. I was going to see if Joe was going to put the caption up because it would have Lou under you. Oh, look at that! Look at that!
Him. This is not him.
Boy, Lou just went. Lou gets no credit for being on the show, but as you see, Rick Norton Cleveland Daily banner is my first guest today, and it's appropriate that Rick is here because we're going to be talking about the top news stories of 2013, and we also have Richard Roberts and Sarah Lynn Norcus from the Cleveland Daily Banner to talk about the top sports stories from 2013, and the show, I guess, with this being the first of 2014, first Monday show of 2014, it's appropriate to go back and sort of relive what happened this past year. So we're going to take a break, and we're going to have Rick talk a little bit about the news, and me, yeah,
Lou too,
and Lou may throw, seeing as how I'm sure one of the top stories had to do with animals, but we'll go along with that. But we're going to take a break now, and then we'll be back with Rick Norton from the Cleveland Daily Banner. So stay tuned to Tennessee Valley this morning. We'll be right back.
Bye.
Town Americana, where trucks are big and bold, and a handshake is firm, and your word is gold. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens is a $2,000 drive. Maybe you're coming from here or here, doesn't matter. Buying a truck from Don Ledford in Athens will save you at least $2,000. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens, a $2,000 drive worth making.
I'll take that drive every time.
At Crawford Pharmacy, we offer custom compounding. Our pharmacists are known for their attention to detail and unique expertise. So visit us at 2260 Chambliss Avenue, Cleveland, Tennessee. For personal assistance, walk right in or come up to our convenient drive-thru. Crawford Pharmacy, serving our community one person at a time.
Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast in Cleveland, is the place to find quality pre-owned cars and trucks. Kyle offers on-the-spot financing on all vehicles on the lot. Each pre-owned vehicle goes through a complete inspection to make sure each car and truck meets the Kyle Motors standard. Warranty and extended warranties available on all vehicles. Kyle Motors will sell you a car or truck that you will be proud to drive for many years to come. See Tony, Bill, Dale, James, or David and let them put you in your next quality pre-owned vehicle. Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast. Phone 790-7100.
Are you having trouble filing for disability?
Seems no one is concerned about your pain, the waiting, the denials.
While some representatives will meet with you in court, we will meet with you now to discuss your plan. We'll review with you the same file that the judges will see. Call us now, Social Security Law Center at Logan Thompson.
You're entitled to better.
This segment of Tennessee Valley This Morning is brought to you by Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, located at 511 South Lee Highway in Cleveland and 2120 Chapman Road, Chattanooga. For your next new or previously owned vehicle, make it Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, the better way to buy.
And welcome back to Tennessee Valley this morning on this Monday morning. Alan Mincy, I'm your host, and my first guest, Rick Norton, What exactly is your title at the Cleveland Daily Banner, Rick?
Anything anybody wants me to be.
Okay, and other duties as assigned.
That's exactly right.
Managing editor?
No,
Associate
it's
editor?
called associate editor.
Associate
there are
editor.
two of us.
Okay. Oh, so you're co-associate editor.
Yeah, or just associate editor.
And the other editor is Gwen.
Gwen Swiger.
Gwen Swiger.
Does
Gwen's
a
been there for
excellent
for
job.
quite. Oh yes. Well, I think the Banner does an excellent job in covering our community, and sometimes, and I worked there with you for several years, and we know that we often hear those who complain, but not necessarily those who praise the job that you or the sports department or the lifestyles department does. So I just want to say that I think you guys do a great job in our community.
Well, thank you, Alan, because when you're working in newspaper work, you basically you just have to learn to take the good with the bad, and don't let the bad get you down too much. It might discourage you on a day or two, but you just you do the best you can. You remember, the key thing is to put everything in perspective. You're never as great as people say you are. You're never as bad as people say you are. So that's just kind of a little rule I try to live by.
Okay. Before we get started with the top stories of 2013, I want to congratulate Rick. He was the winner of our Excellence in Communications Award for the Cleveland Media Association. I think it must have been the nomination that won you the award. Now, who was it that nominated you again?
It was Lou, I think.
Lou? No, it was not Lou.
No,
But
it was someone named Mr. Allen.
Mr. Allen Mincy, but
who,
everyone that I've spoken with has talked about how deserving you were of that award. So, and you've worked at the Banner for several years. I know you took a break, and now are back on. I guess this time, what, your fourth year?
Yeah, in May I will have been there 4 years again. Yeah.
Okay. So, and before that, you were there for about 11, 12?
Before that, I was there 12 years.
12
Sure
years?
was.
Okay. Hey, I'm pretty good.
Yeah, you and I are kind of following the same path in our careers. The only difference is I've not branched out into TV because no one would want me.
Well, don't ever say that, because there's always opportunities for you to get involved. But hey, let's talk about news. Okay.
Might as well.
2013, the Banner has been doing a series of stories for the past week and a half or so. I believe, with this being Monday, you are on the last of the series, the top 2 stories.
Yeah, that's correct, Alan. Today we will identify what we believe to be the story number 2 out of the top 10 for the year. Tuesday we will name the number 1 story, and with that we will also, not every story is going to make the top 10, so there's a whole ton of worthy stories. So we will also have some information about stories that we figure were at the very least honorable mention, because there was a lot of things that happened in Cleveland in 2013, but when you're limited, or when you've limited yourself to just the top 10, there's only so much you can do.
And there are well, let me put it to you this way. Is there any way that I can let you tell me what the top 2 stories are? We promise that we won't tell anybody else.
Well, you've always been a man of your word, so just as soon as we finish this taping, you can be guaranteed I will whisper it to you in the lowest of tones, and you alone will know. And if it gets out in the community, we know where you live and we know where your studio is.
Okay, well then we will just go with the 10 through 3. Okay, and I know some of the stories that have happened in the community this year are feel-good stories. We always have those, and then we have some that are not the type of stories that you really want to ever have to cover, for that matter. But they have come up. But you've got your list there in front of you, and I know that you started off with number 10 being. Help me out.
Number 10 was the retirement of Chief of Police Wes Snyder.
Okay.
Yeah.
and that actually some of these stories happened earlier in the year. This was something that happened in December, I believe.
Very recent, and sometimes when you do this kind of a vote, you sometimes wonder, are people going to concentrate more on the recent stories, or are they going to remember everything that happened throughout the year? And fortunately, we've got a pretty good mix of those. One thing that we haven't done, Alan, that maybe we should do just to bring a little bit of perspective to what this is all about, and that is to explain what this is. This is not opening up to the community to ask our readers to vote. This is actually the vote by the news writers and the editors inside the newsroom who wrote about these stories. These are the reporters who cover these news beats throughout the year. So we used about a 2 or 3 phase process to take care of this voting, and but the point is these top 10 reflect the vote of the news reporters and the editors. There may be people out in the community who may hear this and or see it in the paper and think, well, now how in the world was that story number 8 or 9 or 10, or why wasn't this story number 1? Again, it's a matter of perspective. The news writers might have a different view than what the average newspaper reader out there would have. So yeah, this is a nice little twist to doing the top 10, we believe.
And to some, the retirement of Chief Snyder may have been a bigger story to them than in the total scope as number 10 for you folks. But that was more recent. But I know that you have some stories that happened probably back as far back as January or February or something like that. So why don't we just go down the list of these 10 through 3 and see if we want to expound a little bit on any of those. So you say number 10 was the retirement of Chief Snyder.
Right. Number 10 was Chief Snyder's retirement, and if you will forgive me, Alan, I'm getting up in years, and there's no way I'm going to remember the top 8 myself. So I did bring my little cheat sheet.
No problem.
And
so you're ready for TV now. You've got a cheat sheet.
Absolutely.
Yes.
What do you call these? Cue cards?
No, we call them cheat sheets.
You call them cheat sheets?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
that's fine. But anyway, these are the stories that the readers have already seen on the front page as we are reliving them. But anyway, story number 9, that came out whatever day we started this series. I think it actually started the day after Christmas.
Okay.
So this would have appeared that Friday. But story number 9 was the series of stories we had involving the presence or the legalization or the authorization of guns in schools. You know, this was legislation that was proposed by State Representative Eric Watson.
Right.
It led to a lot of debate, some for, some against, with just about an equal amount of passion on both sides. So our news team voted this as the number 9 story.
Okay.
The number 8 story, which again you've read about, it'll be no surprise to anyone. The only big surprise might be some might feel like this would have been voted higher than number 8, but the closing of Raider Dome over at Cleveland High School. This actually is a major news story. Not so much as the decision to close it, but the decision or the fact that now the Cleveland Board of Education is going to have to make some decisions on how to fund the building or the construction of a new gymnasium. Not to mention, we're not just talking about sports arenas. We're talking about a facility that has some classrooms in it, because Cleveland High School, like a lot of other schools, they're not at capacity, but they are getting pretty full. So they've got to be very, very space conscious in the decisions they make. And so this is actually going to be a big story that continues to develop throughout 2014, is how the issue of Raider Dome is handled, both by the Cleveland Board of Education and by the Cleveland City Council, because you know they're going to be getting involved.
Oh, definitely. And it's sort of like a lot of the top stories, they are not just boom, here's the story, but they're going to continue into 2014 as well, and possibly even longer.
Oh yeah, you're going to find that in any type of top 10 story, it goes far beyond a single headline that you've seen in the newspaper. It's going to be a series of stories. It's the initial story, the breaking story, and then even more importantly, it's all of the follow-ups that take place over a period of time.
Okay, what's number 7?
Number 7 is a prime example of that. It involves District Attorney General Steve Bibb and what's going to happen in his future, because obviously everyone knows Mr. Bibb will not be running for re-election. He only has through this year in office, and he will be replaced by a new DA. The question is now rest in the chambers of the Tennessee legislature is what's going to happen. It's no secret some of the issues that have arisen from the DA's office, and we all know that now although the Tennessee District Attorney General, Mr. Cooper, has pretty much come out saying that although Mr. Bibb may have made some judgments that could be second guessed, he said he found nothing that was really could be prosecuted in terms of criminal wrongdoing. And of course that's been debated now for the last year and a half. But now last year the Tennessee legislature got involved. Committees for both the State House and the State Senate have been debating the issue in terms of Mr. Bibb's future, whether or not this should be allowed to go on, Mr. Bibb to complete his term, or whether things like impeachment, that kind of thing, could be coming up. So that's going to be a big issue in the coming session of the General Assembly, and I think they kick off later this month.
Right, the 14th, I believe, or the 12th.
It's generally around mid-January or so.
Like
so
that.
we, like a lot of other newspapers and media organizations, are going to be following up on exactly what's going on here.
Sure.
But that's
number 7.
That's number 7.
Number 6.
Number 6 is a story that means a lot to a lot of people who have ever gotten onto Interstate 75 on the south end of town.
It's got to be exit 20.
And that is exit 20.
We love exit 20.
Oh, yes. But as I tell a lot of people when it comes to exit 20, because I've had any number of people say to me, what are they doing and why are they doing it? And I will explain to them. Of course, I'm not going to pretend to be a representative for the Tennessee Department of Transportation, but I do know that exit 20 has problems. It's had problems now for several years. Cleveland is continuing to grow. You've got a new industrial park that's going to be opening in that same area. Traffic is going to get worse and worse and worse. So TDOT, as we call them, came into the picture quite some time ago and said, yeah, we need to do a total makeover of the exit 20 interchange, and that includes taking that existing bridge and taking what I believe is now 2 lanes and expanding it into 6 lanes. So you can imagine when you're talking about going from 2 to I think 6, that means that somebody believes there's a problem, and honestly there is. So our staff decided this is story number 6.
Okay, I'll tell you what, before we get to 5, 4, and 3, let's take a break. We're going to, where did my name go? Oh, I'm sorry.
Ask Lou.
But we are going to take a break. We're going to come back. We'll go over these next 3 stories, and then I'll see if there's any way that I can pull those last 2 out of you, but I pretty much know I can't. But we're going to take another break, and we'll be right back with Rick Norton from the Cleveland Daily Banner, talk about 3 more of the top 10 stories in our community for 2013. We'll be right back.
Town Americana, where trucks are big and bold, and a handshake is firm, and your word is gold. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens is a $2,000 drive. Maybe you're coming from here or here, doesn't matter. Buying a truck from Don Ledford in Athens will save you at least $2,000. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens, a $2,000 drive worth making.
I'll take that drive every time.
At Crawford Pharmacy, we offer custom compounding. Our pharmacists are known for their attention to detail and unique expertise. So visit us at 2260 Chambliss Avenue, Cleveland, Tennessee. For personal assistance, walk right in or come up to our convenient drive-thru. Crawford Pharmacy, serving our community one person at a time.
Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast in Cleveland, is the place to find quality pre-owned cars and trucks. Kyle offers on-the-spot financing on all vehicles on the lot. Each pre-owned vehicle goes through a complete inspection to make sure each car and truck meets the Kyle Motors standard. Warranty and extended warranties available on all vehicles. Kyle Motors will sell you a car or truck that you will be proud to drive for many years to come. See Tony, Bill, Dale, James, or David and let them put you in your next quality pre-owned vehicle. Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast. Phone 790-7100.
Are you having trouble filing for disability?
Seems no one is concerned about your pain, the waiting, the denials.
While some representatives will meet with you in court, we will meet with you now to discuss your plan. We'll review with you the same file that the judges will see. Call us now. Social Security Law Center at Logan Thompson.
You're entitled to better.
This segment of Tennessee Valley This Morning is brought to you by Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, located at 511 South Lee Highway in Cleveland and 2120 Chapman Road, Chattanooga. For your next new or previously owned vehicle, make it Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, the better way to buy.
Hello, back with more Tennessee Valley This Morning with Rick Norton from the Cleveland Daily Banner, Associate Editor and Superstar.
Well, okay.
And we've been, yeah, you'll take it. And we've been talking about the top stories in 2013 as the Banner is doing a series of stories. And we got through number 6, I believe.
Number 6,
So
yes.
we are on number 5 now. So Rick, what was the top 5? And we've already explained how these came about. But in this series that we're doing, number 5.
Number 5. This story just appeared just no more than 3 or 4 weeks ago, if that long. Mm-hmm. This was the story in which I can't remember exactly who did the survey. It's called the Best Performing Small Cities. And what made this a big story was last year. This is a survey that's done every year. And last year, Cleveland fell in, I don't know where it was, somewhere in the hundreds, 100 and something, where Cleveland ranked. But this year, Cleveland has moved up to 25th.
Hey.
And that's called Best Performing Small Cities. And of course, a lot of that is on taking a look at the business side of cities like Cleveland and what have you. So that was a significant move for the city of Cleveland, because anybody who knows anything about Cleveland, Bradley County, knows that Cleveland is definitely a town on the go. I mean, this city is really growing. Compared to the Cleveland that my wife and I moved to back in 1977, there is no comparison. It's just a town that has grown tremendously. It's a town that is continuing to grow. Hopefully, we will be able to absorb that growth, but I think the biggest issue is going to be whether our road system will accommodate it, and that's why one of our top stories we mentioned earlier was the Exit 20 interchange, because that's a situation where the more you grow, the more access you've got to have to interstate and the other major systems. So yeah, infrastructure is a big part of growth. But anyway, that was story number 5.
Considering I knew you when you first moved to Cleveland, you and Trina, and where you lived on Peerless
Road.
You would have been right there at Publix.
If we still lived in that little duplex at the corner of Peerless Road and Valley Head Road, I think. Yeah. If we still lived there, we could walk out of our front door and wave to the people who were coming out of the Publix store.
So that shows you just right there a little bit about the changes
Right.
in our community. Number 4. What's number 4?
Story number 4. This is not a what you would call feel-good story, not at all. But this is the case that drew a lot of headlines, and not just in Cleveland, but across Tennessee, and maybe even parts of the nation for that matter. It's the story of Natasha Bates and the young mother who lost her 2 young sons. Obviously, that is a story that brought a lot of emotion in Cleveland. It will for a long time. And honestly, people sometimes think, oh, you newspaper people, you feed off negative stories like that. But you know what? Cleveland Daily Banner, we get no thrill or no excitement or no joy out of reporting stories like that. In fact, we wish they didn't happen.
Sure.
But they do. That's a part of the news process. And so, good or bad, we're going to try our best to be there for it, just so we present it factually and objectively. And the Natasha Bates story is one that it's going to live in a lot of people's memories for a long time. But anyway, that was story number 4.
Right. And then number 3, which was just in yesterday's paper and Sunday's paper.
Yes, that is correct. Story number 3 is another one of those, Allen, where it is not just one headline, it's a long series of stories, and that's the future of the Veterans Home.
Yes.
The Cleveland Bradley County State Veterans Home, I guess is what we call it, or the State Cleveland Bradley, whichever. But that's a story that actually began to unfold as long ago as, I think it was 10 years ago. And there have been developments over the years, but then it seems like just in the last couple of years, we started to really see some parts of the story materialize. And then in 2013, something major happened, and it wasn't for the good. That is the local, the Southeast Tennessee Veterans Council.
Right.
The folks who actually are in charge of putting together this Veterans Home and making sure it comes to fruition. They were informed basically by, I can't remember the name of the state division, but it's a branch of Tennessee government. And basically, this division informed the local folks that there are issues with the existing site there off the bypass where everyone is wanting. This is donated property, and our local folks have worked for a long time thinking this is where the Veterans Home is going to be located, and that it is a done deal. And just in the latter half of 2013, we found out that there are some issues with that site, and there's 3 or 4 key issues. The way we understand it is no single issue was going to be enough to keep the Veterans Home from being located there, but if you put them together, collectively the group was enough to present a problem. And so now the local Southeast Council is working with the state to try to correct these issues, not just to keep a Veterans Home in Bradley County, but to keep it in that site, because this is donated property. And I tell you what, in today's economy, you're not going to find roughly 30 acres of property donated for anything. And there's a lot of good people who have worked hard on this, and certainly we, like the rest of Bradley County, we're pulling for everybody to make sure that this happens. And I know Tennessee Commissioner, her name is Minnie Bears Grinder. She is the Commissioner of the Veterans Affairs Office for Tennessee. She is working really closely with the local folks to make sure that Bradley County keeps this Veterans Home, because when the story broke that there were issues with the site, it is my understanding the Commissioner flew from, she had an engagement in Memphis that day. She flew into Cleveland in order to be here for a meeting that night involving the community and the local council. And it was in that meeting she assured everyone that do not think that we have decided against a Veterans Home. That is not the case. She said, I personally am still working to make this Veterans Home possible. So basically she asked the local people in Cleveland, do not give up on this. because we're going to make this happen. It just may take a little bit more work with a lot of people involved.
Well, let's hope for the best, because it's something that this community has worked toward for quite a while, and as you mentioned, the property that has been donated, it's actually an excellent site as well, because it's close to the interstate, close to APD 40. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope all the things that need to take place are going to take place. Now, I know you've got two more stories, and one will be in today's paper.
One will be in today's paper. Should be hitting the racks by roughly noon, something like that.
Well, this program is rebroadcast at noon, so you may actually be picking it up as we're talking about it coming out. So, and then the top story, as voted amongst you folks at the banner, will be in tomorrow's paper.
That is correct, Alan. And the two stories represent what we've talked about earlier, and that is, one of the stories is actually, and this is kind of the interesting part, because I don't know if I could come out and tell you that the number one story, if I should say too much about it or not.
It might be better if you don't.
But the truth is, of these two stories, one of them actually, it was earlier in the year.
Okay.
And the other story is one that, if you don't know anything about this story, then you've not been reading our newspaper.
Okay. So, good teasers. There.
Okay.
There
Sounds
you
good.
go. Well, now coming up in 2014, and we talked about some of the stories that will continue on that have already been published in the paper. 2014 is a big election year.
It's a very big election year, Alan. In fact, pardon me for kind of laughing when I say that, because remember, I told you things that newspapers like to do and don't like to do, and I just have to tell you, as friend to friend,
Right.
Elections do not always make people happy, and they get downright dirty sometimes. And I'm afraid we're going to have 2 or 3 races in Bradley County that are going to be just like that. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on which end of the spectrum you're on, the news media is going to be there to report it. And it's not just the Cleveland Daily Banner. It'll be radio. It'll be TV. It'll be whatever kind of media is out there. But yeah, we have got some huge elections, and some key positions are going to be filled. And what is that expression? It's not always going to be pretty.
Yeah, I understand that. Hey, before I let you go, I know you do your column on Sundays.
Yeah.
Is it still called Ink Spots?
Yeah, it was as of last week. So
Okay. Well, I never really look for the title as much as I look for my name in it, because you've zinged me in there once before. But
you know, you loved it.
I can't can't say I didn't. But as well as being an editor, you also do some writing. And was there a favorite story of yours this year that you this past year that you remember that is probably not one of these top 10?
You mean one that I did?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely, Alan. In fact, thank you for asking that.
Okay.
I didn't know that was going to be one of your questions. That was not in the script. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Just kidding. No, the story that I'm thinking of, in terms of hard news stories, it will not be on lists like this. But it was the story that it was a story I did for our Thanksgiving Day edition, and some folks might remember it, others might not. But it was a story of a Cleveland family that went back into their past 40 years when they were kids, and their family situation. They were very, very poor. We're talking probably below poverty, if you can be below poverty in that age. But this would have been, I guess, early 70s, I suppose. And it's a family that literally, it was 5 kids, and they almost starved. I mean, it was that bad. The father had lost his job. The mom was in the hospital due to a variety of reasons. And there was no money, there was no going to grocery stores to get the milk, get the bread. They just didn't have it. They did not even have transportation to get to government agencies that might have been able to help them with some emergency money, if those agencies even existed back then. So what this family did to survive was they would actually go out in the woods and they would pick poke salad. And for 2 to 3 weeks, every day, breakfast, noontime, and at supper, these kids ate poke salad. And here's a kicker to that story. This was just poke salad that was boiled and drained. That's the way they ate it. No salt, no pepper, no seasoning. It wasn't fried in oil. Things that would at least give turnip greens more flavor.
Sure.
They didn't have it. 40 years later, these kids remembered this, and they remembered why they survived. And the reason they survived was because the congregation 4 decades ago at Waterville Baptist Church stepped in and said, you folks have got to have some help, because the father was a good man, but he was a proud man. He would not ask for help. And so that's the story that I'm going to remember most, because it meant a lot to me to get to write it.
Yeah.
But it probably meant even more that the lady came to me and talked to me about it. And she told me, she said, 40 years later, we as adults want to thank Waterville Baptist Church for what they did. She said, how can we make that happen? And I told her, I said, well, for one thing, we'll get in touch with the church itself, and we will set up a meeting between you all and the pastor, Pastor Allen Lovelace.
Sure.
And but I told her, I said, here's another thing we can do. And I told her, I said, I'm speaking kind of selfishly here, but I would love to tell your story if you and your siblings would agree to sit down and talk with me. And that was the whole premise of that story. And it turned out to be a really long story. But there are some stories, as you will remember in your newspaper days, Alan, you get so involved in, you can't stop.
No.
You've got to tell the stories. I tell our reporters in the newsroom, look, I'm not an editor who goes by a story it's got to be this short or this long. Do the story justice. That's what I've always told our folks. And this was a story I wanted to do justice to. And you know, the funny part about it is the day before New Year's, just a few days ago, one of the siblings came to see me at the office, and she said, you know what? I have not come to see you in person yet since that story ran. And she said, we as a family just wanted to thank you. And she said, the story was written the way we told you, our story. And she said they were just really overwhelmed by the story, by the community reaction, by the church reaction. And so earlier, when I told you about taking the good with the bad and trying to balance them out, this was the good.
Right.
And it will always be the good. So thank you for asking that.
Well, I know that we always have a story that touches us, that we write about, and even me back, working with the United Way now, but seeing some of the things that took place after the 2011 tornadoes, and some of the good stories that came out of tragedies. It makes you feel good to be a part of that, even if it's just telling folks the story. So I appreciate you sharing with that, and you almost got emotional on me there.
Did it show?
It showed just a little bit, but I appreciate you telling that, and I appreciate you being on the show. And I can't wait to figure out what number 2 and number 1 is. I should know. I should be able to figure these out.
You probably, if you sat in a dark corner all by yourself and no distractions, you could probably, let me make sure, you could probably figure out. 1 you could definitely figure out.
Okay.
The second one, it would require just a little bit of thought, but you'd have to go back in time a few months and you'd realize, oh yeah, I remember that.
I remember that story.
Yeah.
I remember that happening. Well, thanks for coming on and giving us a glimpse back at 2013. And, I'll be calling on you next January.
Are you going to be that desperate?
Yes.
Oh, and
Probably.
the little running joke that you and I always have
Yes.
about in the winter when it snows,
Right.
can't wait for the first major snow. And you know why.
I know why, but we're not going to.
Oh, share this.
No,
story.
that
Go
could be
ahead.
the number one story. So we don't want to share that.
I promise
but,
you it's not.
Yeah, it's not it wasn't the number one story when it actually happened, but that's another story for another time.
Blizzard 1993.
Right. Hey,
March.
We still got snow possible even today.
That's right.
So,
but superstar Allen Mincy
That superstar. Yes.
truly was the star in that storm.
Hey, we got to save some time for the sports guys.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So we've got Richard Roberts and Sarah Lynn Norcus coming up from the Cleveland Daily Banner. They're pretty good folks, aren't they?
They are wonderful people, and what I would say is that Richard and Sarah Lynn are just 2/3 of our sports staff. Another key member is Joe Cannon. I know Joe would have wanted to be with you today, but he's a little bit under the weather, just as is 3/4 of the rest of Bradley County is. So I know that you guys will mention Joe by name, I'm sure, but he would have loved to have been here. But with Richard and with Sarah Lynn, and Sarah Lynn's one of our new kids in the newsroom, so they're going to be great.
So the teaser is the flu's the number one story.
The flu's the number one story?
Yes.
Maybe next year.
Maybe next year. Okay. Rick, thanks for being on. We're going to take a break. We'll be back. We'll talk sports. And if you have any questions about anything news-wise, give Rick a call over at the Banner, okay? We'll be back right after these messages, so stay tuned.
Bye.
Bye.
Town Americana, where trucks are big and bold, and a handshake is firm, and your word is gold. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens is a $2,000 drive. Maybe you're coming from here or here, doesn't matter. Buying a truck from Don Ledford in Athens will save you at least $2,000 bucks. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens, a $2,000 drive worth making.
I'll take that drive every time.
At Crawford Pharmacy, we offer custom compounding. Our pharmacists are known for their attention to detail and unique expertise. So visit us at 2260 Chambliss Avenue, Cleveland, Tennessee. For personal assistance, walk right in or come up to our convenient drive-thru. Crawford Pharmacy, serving our community one person at a time.
Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast in Cleveland, is the place to find quality pre-owned cars and trucks. Kyle offers on-the-spot financing on all vehicles on the lot. Each pre-owned vehicle goes through a complete inspection to make sure each car and truck meets the Kyle Motors standard. Warranty and extended warranties available on all vehicles. Kyle Motors will sell you a car or truck that you will be proud to drive for many years to come. See Tony, Bill, Dale, James, or David and let them put you in your next quality pre-owned vehicle. Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast. Phone 790-7100.
Are you having trouble filing for disability?
Seems no one is concerned about your pain, the waiting, the denials.
While some representatives will meet with you in court, we will meet with you now to discuss your plan. We'll review with you the same file that the judges will see. Call us now. Social Security Law Center at Logan Thompson.
You're entitled to better.
This segment of Tennessee Valley This Morning is brought to you by Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, located at 511 South Lee Highway in Cleveland and 2120 Chapman Road, Chattanooga. For your next new or previously owned vehicle, make it Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, the better way to buy.
And welcome back to Tennessee Valley This Morning on this Monday morning. We just had Rick Norton from the Cleveland Banner talking news, and now we got the experts
Yes, you
in
do.
the sports department.
Called us experts.
Yes.
Experts.
yes.
That's it.
Obviously,
We have
he-
Sarah Lynn Norcus and Richard Roberts.
That's correct.
And now help me out, Richard. You are the editor, sports
Yes,
editor,
sports editor.
and
I'm just a writer.
just a writer. Hey, believe me, I was just a writer. I was a staff writer. Is that what you're called?
I'm a sports writer.
Oh, well then that's even more impressive than staff writer.
And our resident hockey expert.
That's what I hear, and also a big Michigan State fan. And this past, not true.
If I have to pick one, it's Michigan State.
Okay, well,
I'm
let's-
actually Alabama.
Well, we won't talk about Alabama because our ratings go.
I would
know.
think they'd go up.
But I did want to give you some accolades. I had sports guys from Sports Talk on, and we had decided that the Rose Bowl was probably going to be the most competitive game, and it ended up being that way. So,
Sure was it.
but that was, who knows? Tonight we may have a very competitive national championship. But we're not here to necessarily
Not
talk
necessarily talk about that,
national.
no.
We're here to talk about local.
Right.
And some of the things that happened in 2013. But since we're talking about the bowls, we just had 3 of our local guys playing on TV in bowls.
That's right. That's
and,
right.
And I know a lot of folks saw Chad
Wojtek.
Playing quarterback for Pittsburgh.
Right.
And he actually came in after their regular quarterback was injured.
Right. He started the first play of the second half and carried him on, and actually scored a go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter for Pitt.
So we're proud of him, but we also had 2 others.
Yes, we did. Caleb Houston from Walker Valley is the first area football player to actually play in a BCS bowl game.
Okay.
And he was in the
UCF, wasn't he?
Yep.
Yeah.
He plays for UCF. He's the punter. He punted 4 times against Baylor and averaged a little over 41 yards, I believe.
Yep, 41 yards.
And as Joe Palo told me as I came in, we had all talked about there's no way that Baylor loses that game, and look what happened. And then we had one that I hadn't even remembered that played for Mississippi. Is that right?
He's a offensive lineman for Mississippi. Jared Duke, also from Walker Valley.
Okay.
Ended up his senior year with the Rebels in the Music City Bowl in Nashville with a win.
Okay.
So we've had some outstanding athletes take it a little step farther.
Well, let's see there. Chad win.
Caleb wins.
wins.
And
Jared
Jared wins.
So it's obvious that these national colleges should be coming to our area to look for.
Exactly, coaches. If you're looking for talent, Bradley County, Polk County, here it is.
We'll guarantee you a win in a bowl.
Exactly.
Especially after this year.
Yeah, exactly. Well, speaking of this year or this past year, 2013, big stories.
Well, you kind of talked about a little bit.
Sarah Lynn, don't let Rick.
Yeah, she dominates me at work. It's my turn.
Okay, I got you.
Got to defer to my editor.
Right.
Okay.
You guys touched on it in the news list is the closing of the Raider Dome. Not only does that mean that they're going to have to get a new building, but they've had to pick up lock, stock, and barrel and move the program more or less to Cleveland Middle School. So that's a big change for them. And they'll also be playing a few at Lee that conflicts with Cleveland Middle, but they've moved, found a home away from home until this situation is resolved.
Do you lose the home field advantage by doing that?
I guess it depends on your point of view. It's a Blue Raiders youth and Blue Raider grown-ups.
Because a lot of these kids have played
Yeah.
there.
Right. So I don't know that they lose that much.
That's what some of the coaches have tried to do, basketball coaches. They've been telling them, hey, you played here before, you're playing here again. So it's kind of home away from home, I'm sure.
Well, you mentioned that there might be some games at Lee. Did we have a national champion this year at Lee? Or am I thinking of a year ago?
You might be thinking of a year ago.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
And Lee's a big story moving into the NCAA this year.
That's
huge. That's huge, and they've done well so far in starting off with basketball.
Well, they've always had a great basketball team.
Right.
And now they're they're finding that the NCAA is a little bit different, I'm sure.
They're finding out it's a little different, but they've picked up at least 2 wins, maybe more so far in their conference play. So they've started off strong.
Yeah. Sarah Lynn, how long have you been with the sports department?
It's been a year now.
Okay,
About exactly.
So you covered some football,
yes,
as well. Nothing against Walker Valley, Cleveland High School, Bradley Central, but we got a team just a little bit over to
just a little east of here.
Just a little east of here that really impressed a lot of folks. And I don't know exactly who covered which teams.
That was more or less, I was over there for most of the year.
You were in Polk County more?
So, and that's, you try to narrow it down to the biggest stories of the year. I think the biggest stories of the year are actually the athletes that participate in these sports, because there is so much, this is such a talent-rich area here for all sports. You name a sport now, and we have a local superstar or 3 or 4 that really brings those programs up. And this year at Polk County in particular, once again, it was Zach Miller, the beast of a fullback for the Wildcats that carried them a lot. And then we have Mr. Clemens that was on the line blocking for him, that both of those gentlemen are on the All-State team for the Tennessee Sports Writers Association.
When you call him Mr. Clemens, then you know that he's impressive. You know, but that's cool. Do you specifically have teams that you cover?
It depends, Alan. We try to break it around, but sometimes it just happens that we wind up covering the same people a lot.
Okay.
We try to get around to everybody, but
I was with Cleveland a lot this year.
Okay, Cleveland had a good team.
I would say they would definitely make a top story of the year. They first time in 10 years they won a playoff game. Was it 10 years?
I believe something like that.
10 years that they've won a playoff game. They finished 10-4.
And help me out again. Who did they lose to?
Knox West.
Knox West.
Okay, because I know it was one of those powerhouses up in the Knoxville, Maryville, whatever area, which is always tough to play. But to get to that point.
Yeah, they made it to the semifinals in the state, so that was a cold night.
I can imagine that would have been in November, I guess.
Yeah, coming from Michigan, you think I would have done better, but no. I can't imagine how they did out there.
And they also had 2 to make the All-State team.
Quarterback Austin Herink, and then DJ Jones got athlete because he was everything. Did a little bit of everything.
Well, it's I know it was a down year, I guess, for Walker Valley.
Walker Valley,
a little bit.
Yeah, it was. It kind of turned out to be that way. They played some very, very strong football. They were picking up a ton of steam and played East Hamilton right down, just was a play away.
Which was one of the top teams in our area.
Right,
Yep.
from beating East Hamilton, and then that seemed to be the high water mark for them. They kind of slid after that, but Glenn Ryan has the program headed in the right direction, and he's throwing coal on the fire, and there's no doubt that they're going to be a team to be reckoned with.
And then, of course, Bradley.
Always
football
Bradley
team.
Central, always. Damon Floyd is another fine example of a good, dedicated coach that's leading a group of fine, dedicated young men. And when you talk of football, you know, this is going to be like wrestling. You speak of wrestling, this whole state knows that this little corner of the state is a wrestling mecca, and it's coming to be that way for football also.
Well, now, as far as other sports, we have, of course, we're in the midst of basketball season, and I know you talked about Coach up at Walker Valley, the football coach, being new. We have sort of a new face at Bradley Central. With the basketball team, didn't Kent step down?
Kent stepped down.
It may not be a new face,
right,
but
a familiar face, new in the position on the bench. Let's say Chuck Clark stepped in for Kent Smith, and they haven't lost a beat. The boys have a great basketball team.
Okay. Sarah Lynn, you'll find that there's a lot of tradition here.
That is what I've been told.
And it's not just the boys' sports, but girls basketball, girls volleyball. And we've had tradition in baseball, football. So you've come into an area that is really rich in sports tradition. What have you noticed since you've been here, or something that happened in 2013 that you were a part of that you would consider to be one of the top, besides freezing at the Cleveland High School playoff game?
Just actually being around the football culture up north. Football is a big deal. I think wasn't as big in my area because our football team was horrible. They were a sorry excuse for a team.
Well, that's what we call the Big Ten, or whatever they're calling it.
Down here, just seeing how everybody gets into it, from the coaches, the players, the students, then people who don't even have children at the school. I mean, town sort of shuts down on Friday night for a little bit. So yeah, just being a part of that, and then sort of following on the coattails as Cleveland did their thing and made it to the semifinals. That was a fun ride.
Well, Richard and I both know it's always been tradition like that.
Always.
And with Lee, and though Cleveland State is a community college, they still got a tradition.
Oh, sure.
Baseball,
absolutely,
I know they were.
Absolutely. Mike Policastro and the Cougars are, always.
Yeah. So and of course Lee Sigliano is still over here.
Coach Brew over at Lee, and they're didn't they go to the national championship in
I think it was
JCC? Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, that there was
they
something
made it out to Colorado
national
again.
championship.
Right. We haven't gotten her to Knoxville yet, but we'll try to get her there this fall.
Well, this wasn't a great year to go to Knoxville, but next year is going to be much better.
Right, and we know we're working on converting her from the dark side.
Okay.
Come to the light.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, everything is the dark side except for the SEC if you're in Tennessee.
That is true.
And although you are on the dark side of the SEC if you like Alabama, because we know that's not one of Rick's favorite teams. Correct.
Right, exactly.
Hey, I wish I'd have given you guys more time to be on, because we are,
Well,
is that Rick Norton?
I know. We told him before this started what he needed to do, and he of course ignored us like he does in the newsroom.
Exactly. But we just got just a minute or so to go. Let me go ahead and get your predictions, since national championship is tonight. SEC versus somebody from Florida. We don't know who they are.
Well,
but who are you picking, Richard?
I'm an SEC man. I want the trophy to stay home. So go.
So you're picking the Tigers, the War Eagles.
I can't say that. I can say War Tigers. How's that?
The War Tigers. Okay. Sarah Lynn?
They need to make up their mind on a mascot. I'm actually branching outside of the SEC, and I think Florida State. That's going to be one heck of a game. I'm going for Florida State.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's tough.
She's got a lot to learn.
They're going to put me further in the corner now.
Just hope that Florida State doesn't have to kick a field goal from 59 yards out with a second left, and everything will be fine. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having
us.
I want to get you on and talk more about sports later in the year, and when you get acclimated a little bit more to these guys over there. And we'll keep Norton off, so we'll have enough time to talk.
We'll get Joe healed up so he can come back and
Sounds
be with
good.
us next time.
Folks, a little bit about what happened in 2013 from our friends over at the Cleveland Banner. We hope you've enjoyed it. We'll be back in a couple of Mondays to talk about something happening this year. So we'll see you then. Until then, bye-bye. You got to wave at the camera. Bye-bye. Rick's over there waving.